Today we got another Star Wars Dawn of Rebellion talent tree guide and review for the Imperial Academy Cadet talent tree. So this is an interesting character who is sort of a leader, helper kind of a character who also could pilot, I guess, and also a little bit of combat, but really little. This might be a decent jack-of-all-trades kind of a character. Oh, knowledge as well. There's a big emphasis on knowledge and knowing stuff, knowledge warfare. This might work as a jack-of-all-trades character, but really, like always, you know I'm not going to recommend a jack-of-all-trades characteristic build for this, or any tree ever. So first of all, this is one of those universal specs that gets a lot of career skills as part of their talents. Like there's 2 talents early on, which will give you 2 new career skills each, and most of them are combat. In fact, altogether, we get all of the range combat skills as career skills, which is neat. We get melee, the piloting stuff, so whatever you want to do with the combat. Although really, let's be honest, if piloting is an aspect of this character, which it kind of is, sort of a little bit, you might as well go with agility, right? With a solid agility, you'll fly a little, you shoot a little, and you'll be okay at those. We don't have a lot of combat, though, or even flying for that matter. The combat that we do have, I kind of like, except you just can't do it that often. It's not consistent. Before you roll your combat check, with a small cost, you can add some results equal to the ranks you have in this, and there's a few ranks of this, so by the end of it, it's actually pretty good. You can't use it that often, but, you know, if you pick your moment, you can have an attack with a bunch of extra advantages to do whatever with. Some consistent damage or combat thing would have been preferred on top of this, but whatever. It's better than Pirate, who you would think would have some sort of combat, and they have, like, no combat aspect to him whatsoever. The freaking Doctor could beat the crap out of the Pirate, hands down. It's so weird. Anyway, so the Imperial Academy Cadet gets some combat training, mostly, though, with the career skills, unfortunately. Anyway, let's focus on the buffs. Your big bread and butter buff is Formation Tactics. It's a big defensive buff to allies near you, and the timing of it works in such a way that through most of your career, you can just alternate between doing this and attacking if you want. Instead of deciding, should I do my this thing or should I attack, you can just keep going back and forth between them. Although eventually it's good enough to where you don't have to keep going back and forth. If you roll well enough the first time, it can last for the entire combat encounter eventually when you get there. But it depends. How well you roll will determine how many people you affect, not how effective it is. And so you may run into a situation where you only help one person, and even if it lasts for the entire encounter, you still might want to do it again, or you might want to do it on your next turn even, in order to get as many people as possible, and not just go back and forth between the buffing and attacking, or buff and then forget about it for the rest of the fight, depending on your situation. It just depends. And making this check easier while also adding a little extra onto this buff talent is the command talent. We get some help with the leadership checks in general, any leadership check. Also, when you do a leadership check on person, they get a 24-hour discipline buff, which will help them with fear checks or resisting some talking checks, as well as healing strain at the end of an encounter. If they want to use that over cool, it depends on whether or not it'll actually be better to use discipline. But anyway, so that's nice. So for the most of your career, you're going to be helping them with their formation tactics to give a defensive buff, alternating between that and attacking. There are plenty of trees that are only half that interesting, so that's something, I guess. And every once in a while, you throw out the by the book, add extra results onto your attack. It's fine so far. What else do we got? Oh, here we go. So targeted firepower. This is a massive enemy debuff or ally buff, basically. So you pick an enemy, and then for a time, all of your allies do better against that enemy, so you can focus fire, taking a big enemy down. You really can't do this that often at all. You really want to make it count, and the check is pretty hard. Spoilers, you're really going to want to focus on knowledge warfare and intellect for this character. One, for this, because, you know, a lot of times taking down the biggest and or most interesting looking enemy, probably the most powerful, important enemy, whatever the biggest big bad of the session is, wait for them to show up and then focus fire on them. That can be really important. But also, there's another talent which I love, known schematic. You can use your knowledge to see if you know, like, the plans schematics, blueprints, whatever, of a vehicle or ship or base building or something, and it allows you to plan unconventional routes and know where critical components are, stuff like that. You can get really creative with it. I've used that talent with a character a ton of times before. It can be a lot of fun, and it's also a nice opportunity for the GM to be creative. What cool information can the players glean from this talent if they succeed? We also have, let's see, some knowledge-based stuff. So you can re-roll any knowledge check, which is nice. You're probably going to need it because these two big talents are not always so easy to pull off, and they're pretty important, so that's going to be helpful. We also have knowledge specialization, which I can't begin to explain how excited I am to talk about knowledge specialization for once, for the first time ever. This is like my nemesis, but not even a cool nemesis, like a really lame nemesis that I'm just so sick of seeing. I've said all I can, complained all I can about knowledge specialization. I'm so sick of being sick of it. I actually get to say some good stuff about it because it actually really meshes well with the tree. So what you do is you pick a type of knowledge skill to specialize in, and then you get to trade triumph for successes, which on average, for the most part, really only works if you have a triumph but also not enough successes to succeed. Really, because the way the knowledge skills work, like typically by default, successes is more about doing it quickly, and how often do you really need to do it more quickly? But a triumph wouldn't get you out of that situation, or wouldn't a triumph also help you in a similar situation? Wouldn't that be enough? Why would you need a talent to have a triumph be recycled into something more useful than a triumph? Like, only if you had another talent that specifically had a specific hard-coded way of using success results and not triumphs would this really feel, honest to gosh, useful. And we have that. Targeted firepower. You can add advantage results to your allies based off of how many successes you have. So, yes, trade the triumph for more successes, which means allies have more advantages on their attack rolls against the enemy you're focusing on. This is really great synergy here. I love this. I'm so happy to finally not be annoyed at knowledge specialization. For once, finally. Did I put 2 and 2 together when I first looked over this tree? Because I don't remember doing that. Past Steve was really stupid when it came to this game, I'm learning. Don't watch any of my old videos, apparently. So, what else do we got? While we're talking about knowledge specialization, let's just say that it absolutely should be knowledge warfare that you pick, because the other one, known schematic, it uses a different knowledge skill, and just the way it works, I mean, technically it scales up in effectiveness based off of success results, but it doesn't really specifically say what success results do, and also triumphs can also help you in roughly the same way. It just doesn't really explain a distinction. You might as well keep the triumph, is what I'm saying. So yeah, put it to knowledge warfare to help you with targeted power and make the most of that once per session awesome ability to take out the big bad. Another cool knowledge warfare thing we get, you can use it for initiative checks, which is nice. Normally, initiative could be cool or vigilance, depending on whether or not you're planning an ambush or being surprised. It's always nice to have a talent that just allows you to put your eggs in this one basket instead of splitting it up between the two, and so you're just always ever vigilant because of your knowledge warfare. You know the tactics good because of your fancy book learning. And finally, we have some basic like athletics, coordination, fall damage help to represent your physical boot camp fitness stuff. And we have some very basic piloting, defensive driving, which will help your defense when you're flying a ship, and one rank, or the basic version of full throttle to help you go faster. I guess it's enough, and there's enough combat stuff there to justify a solid agility to be the pilot and shooter person. To what extent, though, depends on your group makeup, because really, you want that 4 in intellect, and maybe a 4 in presence, 3 in presence. That one's actually tough, because it's not the easiest check to do that defensive buff that you'll be doing on a regular basis. It is kind of hard, and you might want a 4 to make sure that you can pull it off, but you do get some help with your leadership checks with command. And then eventually, when you get the basic version, the difficulty is reduced. It might be kind of painful at first, but maybe a 3 in presence would be okay for a while, and maybe focus on a different part of the tree before you eventually get to improve formation tactics. 4 intellect, 3 presence, and 3 agility might be decent, I guess. But if you really want to focus on the leader stuff, then 4 intellect, 4 presence, also not a bad way to go if you're focusing on this tree. Alright, bye.